Hello, welcome to Introspection with Jeff. Hopefully the lighting is better. My prior videos, I hadn't really been pleased with all the shadow over my face, and looking back on it, I kind of cringed. Some sense, I thought maybe since my channel is about exploring my inner me better, being kind of cast in shadow, maybe that worked, but I think I have a good looking face and people ought to see me as myself because I'm exploring my true nature, my true self. So I should be I should be very open and my face should be very clear to the camera. Sorry for not having shaved a bit. I sometimes like a day or so. Sometimes I'll go without. I just didn't feel like shaving. I had shaved so close to the skin that I didn't want to overdo it. Anyway, I've been so eager for the past few days to talk about this topic, this particular topic, because number one, it affected a lot of my early life growing up, and so whatever other topic I talk about will probably this will probably have some bearing on that. I want to give you better context. Number two, I think it will help those people who are still in school. What I want to talk about is bullying and mocking and feeling ostracized, feeling you don't fit in school. I want to talk. I also want to find out how other kids be talking about. I'll start off by talking about a friend of mine, Kevin. We had gone to school together, and we connected later on, I believe, on Facebook. Ironically, he went into a profession that I didn't expect him at all to get into, but it's a profession that counsels and helps other people. So we reconnected. We were happy to reconnect, and we hadn't really talked that much in school, but he himself had said he had been in that group, or he participated himself in some of what I'm talking about. So I asked him, at one point I asked him directly, do you think I'm exaggerating when I said I don't know, bullied, or I don't remember the exact term I used. I probably said bullied. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe it wasn't. In retrospect, after graduation, they expressed respect for me, which would have been a lot easier and a lot healthier for me had I known. Any bullying or mockery when I was at Wetzel Road. That would have been like second grade up to the beginning of fourth grade, and then I moved in beginning of fourth grade, about a month after it began. Couple weeks after it began, I moved to Liverpool Elementary, and there was a kind of a honeymoon period where people were getting to know me. And at some point, I'll be totally honest, we had moved. My mom and I had moved into a house. It was actually a house converted into 2 units of as an apartment. We were living in the upper unit, upper floor, and I remember, I guess, my hygiene. My mom would wash clothes by hand. That was one thing. And I remember I would brush my teeth and wash my hair and so forth. But I remember a nickname of Linny Lice. It was for some reason, I guess I wasn't in the habit, admittedly, I wasn't in the habit of washing my hair as often as I should have. And those are the things I confess I guess I did to myself, or I did that led it, that helped it, that led it on. I was also interested in things that intellectual topics that other people didn't seem to be interested in. Like, for example, Star Trek. Um, I moved at the beginning at the beginning of fourth grade, and then in fifth grade, halfway through fifth grade, I saw, well, December or something like that, I saw Star Trek for the Voyage Home for the first time. And so by the end of fifth grade, I had seen just about all of Star Trek, all the original series. And I'd been a big, I had caught up quite a bit by the time the Next Generation premiered when I was in sixth grade. And that was one aspect where it was like quite an adult, quite sophisticated, quite complex interest to have a passion for. And I was also interested in television. I wanted to grow up, and I already knew I wanted to grow up and be a television creator. I wanted to do what like Gene Roddenberry did for Star Trek, create a whole TV series. Later on, like Rod Serling, wanted to design a whole TV series. I'm great at designing a concept. I want to explore this in another video. Like George Lucas, sometimes I wonder if I'm more like George Lucas. He himself has admitted that he's not so much a writer as he is. Well, he's been quoted as saying he's not good at writing. I mean, like writing dialogue and so forth. I wonder if I'm more like that. I don't know. I think I'm pretty good at writing dialogue. I want to explore that too. My failures. That's another video. My feeling stuck in life and where I've gone. What I've done in the past and what led me to becoming stuck. So already I at that young age, I wanted to become a television writer. And so I was interested in these different topics, and I was reading adult books. At that point, I was an avid reader of the paranormal, books on UFOs, and adult books on like studies, and books that had been translated from, like, for example, from French to English, and case studies and so forth. I was also reading about ghosts. Primarily those were the two. And I remember there were books I would take out from the library about Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, and the Bermuda Triangle. Not so much the Bermuda Triangle, but I was intrigued by these different things. And I don't remember the specifics. That's the weird part. I don't remember the specifics, but I remember how I felt. I felt like I did fit in. I remember there were two kids that would pick on me. I don't know necessarily if they were actually picking on me. I guess I won't use names. I'll call him Sandy. There was a kid named Sandy who, I remember when I had an operation or something. I think I was on crutches, something like that. And he came to my house one time and he beat me up in the yard. This is when we were living in that the upper floor of that house. So for whatever reason, he just beat me up. He wanted to beat me up. And I remember another kid, I'll call him Jack. And it was kind of weird because sometimes I remember him, he would make fun of me, or he would say call me mocking names or something like that. But yet sometimes he would sit amongst us at lunch. In elementary school, tell me if this is your experience too. In elementary school, I remember usually it's the guys would sit at one table, just voluntarily the guys would separate, and ew, icky, a girl. The boys would sit at one table and the girls would sit at another table. And so a bunch of us would tend to sit together. And ironically, at that age, we were more friendly, we seemed more accepting of other people. I remember Transformers was a big deal for me. And I had a best friend at the time, other than Peter, who was my best friend, I kept in touch with from Wetzel Road. Um, there was another kid that I mentioned. I mentioned his name before, John. And we would each time one of us got, usually him, he would get a transformer. He would bring it to school. It was a big show and tell, basically. I mean, it was a big advantage to show it, be able to show it off to the rest of us. It was like a clique. So sometimes this kid Jack would sit with us. I remember at least once, and it was like a cluster of us. And I remember there were Transformers trading cards, and I remember him showing me some of the cards, action cards that he had that I didn't have, and sometimes a Transformer that he had, and being able to look at it. Wow. So sometimes he was friendly, but I just remember thinking back, being honest, objective. I remember him as teasing me and mocking me, or at least mocking what I enjoyed. I remember Star Trek being a big thing, that he mocked it sometimes, and I took that personally because I saw when that happened, I would think, gee, they don't know what they're missing out on, and they're so superficial that they're not adult at an adult level. They're not developed mentally and psychologically enough to appreciate the show. They probably haven't even sampled the show. They don't understand it. So that was one of those divides, so where I felt separate and didn't fit in. I guess that grew. I remember maybe I cried. I remember feeling like I didn't fit in, and I remember the crying came up. I remember it more so in middle school. I remember a lot of kids just looking at me puzzled, and they didn't understand me, I think. And I remember a lot of times I'd be sitting, and one of them would look and point, like I'd be sitting near kid A, and then kid B would poke kid A and point to me as if like I was a pariah, like look who you're sitting next to, or look who you're near. And that kind of hit me. I mean, that didn't not hit me. And sometimes they'd ask me words like, what do you think, insert sexual word here, and they'd ask me, do you know what this word means, or do you know what that word means? And I kind of took it personally as if that was somehow a mockery, or somehow they were teasing me that I didn't know what the word was. Like, why would they ask me this? Not that I necessarily knew what the words were. I probably didn't. A lot of the words I probably didn't know, and I didn't really care about them. It was it was like kindergarten. It was like fart jokes. It felt like fart jokes to me at the time. So we went into middle school, and that was a whole different experience. I remember gym class. Yeah, I don't remember gym class in elementary school. I don't remember it as being that bad. I would rather be someplace else, but actually in gym class, I don't remember it being bad or good. Just remember it being gym class. And then in middle school, it's when the kids would know how to play basketball or know how to play floor hockey or something. I kind of liked floor hockey, but they knew how to play these sports, and the gym teachers weren't really teachers. Everybody else knew how to play the sport. And of course, I should say, it wasn't co-ed. It was boys' class, and the girls had their own class. So I was sitting there. I didn't follow sports at all. I don't remember. Well, yeah, we had softball. We had basketball. Swimming. I enjoyed swimming. I don't remember if we had swimming in middle school. Maybe if somebody's watching, maybe that's an excuse to finally leave some comment at the bottom. maybe I shouldn't say finally. It's letting on that nobody's commented yet. Um, but I remember softball, and I remember basketball. I certainly remember basketball, and it wasn't that long. I mean, the school year wasn't that long, and I think we had 4 quarters to the year. So it's basically softball, basketball, um, floor hockey, and something or other. Floor hockey wasn't that bad. Um, I was very good at being goalie, and I was able to block all the shots. I kind of enjoyed it. I like to be very active, but I didn't like running back and forth, and that's what drew me away from basketball. Um, I also I remember at the time, felt like I was fat and I was unattractive. And now thinking it over, yeah, middle school, I didn't think girls would be attracted to me. And so I remember gym class, it became worse in freshman year of high school and onwards. They were very aggressive, and they reminded me of like apes. That didn't come on until chimpanzees. That didn't come on until really high school, freshman year of high school. But I just remember them being aggressive and competitive, and I didn't think that way. I would enter the sport, and I would want to learn how to play the sport. Like, I was intellectually curious about how to be better at the sport, kind of like the Greek ideal of building myself a better body, like improving my body and improving my mind and the health aspect of it. And it seemed clear that they were interested in how to beat the other player. Like, it was very, very competitive. Not that I was anti-competitive, it's just I wasn't motivated by that. And they knew all these different rules because they knew how to play basketball, and they knew all the different rules about playing softball, and it was new to me, and I was relying on the teacher to teach it, and he didn't really teach anything. He just said, okay, like day one, he would say, okay, this team and this team, and like I didn't know what I was doing. I was too scared to do anything practically because I didn't know what would be a foul or what was not allowed or what. So anyway, then I had the impression that they didn't think I was a good player. I wasn't a good choice for whatever game they were playing. So outside of that, yeah, I remember, as I mentioned before, I think I mentioned before anyway. Um, I was sitting in study hall, and this was in 7th grade, and I get a note passed to me from somebody named Kathy Kaprofsky, and would you go out with me? And I turn around, and there she gave a look like, like awaiting an answer. And I've gone through this in, I think, a prior video. I'm sure my prior video. And so I said sure or yeah or nodded maybe, something like that, and I didn't do anything. And then there was a Kathy Catholos. I remember something like she asked me out, or I remember getting a notion that she asked me out, and I said yes. It might have been, well, anyway, blah blah blah. So I felt proud that somebody asked me out, and I thought I was going out with her, going out with her or somebody, and I didn't know really what going out actually entailed, like what that consisted of. And then I could go on, blah blah blah. You get the idea. What else? So I just felt out of the loop and just ostracized and out. And that was a time when I didn't sit with the other kids at lunch. I would sit by myself. I remember there was a kid that sometimes I sat with, and we didn't really talk that much. I would just eat my hamburger. I didn't have a big lunch. At that point, we paid. That was the breaking point. That was the beginning, middle school, 7th and 8th grade. That was the point when we didn't, well, usually we didn't come in with our own bagged lunch. We I guess it was considered cool to buy lunch. At that point, they offered more than just milk. You know, elementary school, they just had milk and ice cream to buy. And I still remember, I think 20 cents for ice cream and 10 cents, I think, for milk in grade school, in elementary school. But anyway, I remember they had quarter sandwiches of peanut butter and jelly. I remember getting that, and I remember getting a hamburger or a hot dog and chocolate milk. I enjoy chocolate milk. For some reason, in elementary school, they outlawed chocolate milk. I've heard because they were concerned that it would cause kids to be more aggressive or whatever, hyped up on chocolate. You know, it's like the cocaine for a child, I guess, or something. And then they had, I think, strawberry milk, and I like that just for the flavor. I mean, some alternative to chocolate. And I don't like, well, I guess I do like vanilla milk, but when you're offered chocolate milk, you're going to grab chocolate. For the record, I don't consider white chocolate to be actual true chocolate. It's just chocolate in name only. So anyway, I always like dark chocolate as true chocolate. And anyway, I think studies would show that cocoa calms the body, and I think you find that more in dark chocolate. I don't know if you'd find that at all in white chocolate. I don't know what, it's some mutation. I don't know what white chocolate actually is. Anyway, oh, fruit chews, fruit punch. That's what it wasn't. It wasn't strawberry milk. It was fruit punch, and I like that. I have a very sweet tooth. Very sweet tooth. I love ice cream. So I would eat that, and I would eat my basic lunch, and I would sit with this kid, and he wouldn't say much. I wouldn't say much. I think sometimes outside of school, I was very conversational. Maybe that comes through in these videos, but I'm very you should see me at work now. I chatter quite a bit. So sometimes I would sit with this other group of kids. Like I would sit alone, and then I tended to sit in the same seat and with the same couple of kids. Not that kid that I was talking about, but another couple of kids. And they were from a different class that for special needs. I'll just say special needs. And that was okay, I guess. And so that was it. And I didn't associate really with my other classmates at all. I didn't find anything in common with them, intellectually or in terms of level of curiosity or passions or what interests or what. And then in high school, it was more so. So that's why that experience with Punky that I was about to that I created a video recently about meant so much, because at that point I was breaking the ice. It was weird. I should say, actually, there was I mentioned a little bit about this before. There was a girl, Shannon, who was in 8th grade in my social study, English class. And I remember sometimes, like at some point, we would break into teams of 3. Like we would separate our desks so that we were in groups of 3. And I remember she was there, and then there was another kid that I knew, and she, like under the desks, I take her foot and just rub it along my leg, and I was so awkward that I didn't know how to react. I didn't know whether she was just goofing around. I think she was just goofing around. And sometimes she would ask me to draw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Sometimes in class, like I remember in 8th grade social studies, sometimes she would ask me to draw a picture of something, and I'm caught. I'm so glad I got to this topic. I didn't forget it. A lot of times, I guess I probably came across as studious and aloof, but so many times I was caught between paying attention in class and some kid asking me some question about my personal life or what, and I didn't know how to react, and I wanted to pay attention to the teacher. Like, my role as a student was to pay attention to the teacher and do school work, and yet here's this kid that's asking me, I'm paraphrasing, and this is kind of an exaggeration, but it's like the kid would ask me, what do you think about life? Or like, what's your favorite TV show? And it's like I'm caught between showing, feeling so gratified that somebody paid attention to me, and yet um, I should be paying attention to the teacher and doing schoolwork. And then right in there, I guess I gravitate, like maybe we all do, we gravitate towards what's easiest for us. So the easier thing would just be to not answer the question and just pay attention to the teacher and keep quiet. Tell me if you've ever been in situations like that. Is it just me? Um, is it just I that was put in those situations? So I don't, to this day, I like some kind of answer. I'm guessing she was just fooling around. She seemed to be more flirtatious or rambunctious or lively just in general. And she's probably changed since then. Um, and I had qualms. I debated internally whether to mention her name. Um, it was childish stuff at the time. Please don't. I mean, if even if she's watching right now, or a friend who might know who she was, um, take it was at the time, and I'm explaining this in context. Please take it in context. Um, she was just like that. So I can't tell. I can't tell. I assume that it's just trying to get attention, and I guess girls did it more than boys. I guess girls reached that age when they just became flirtatious and they wanted to. It's like getting a new toy. It's like, I'm guessing it's like boys getting a big action figure and they want to play with it, or getting I guess like men get a fancy car and they want to drive it around and show it off. I guess girls going through puberty or something, they want to show off and get attention from boys, I'm guessing. Um, so So I felt during those years, well, that was middle school, eighth grade, but even middle school and high school, I felt I felt more picked on in high school. It was like the divide was growing wider and wider, and at some point, I guess it just became steady. I guess this would be elementary school. It was kind of close. It was kind of like this, and then middle school, it went like this, and then in high school onward it was like this, and then it remained like this, steady. So again, that's why that thing with Punky meant so much to me, breaking the ice. um so so was I really picked on? I don't know. I mean, were there moments when I think of bullying, I think of being physically hurt or beat up. And I can think of that one time I mentioned in the yard in elementary school where I was beat up. And I don't remember a lot of times, maybe a handful of times, maybe, unless I really think about it. I don't think I was physically ever assaulted. It was all mental and manipulative, and just people being awkward, I guess, not understanding me. I'll hazard a guess, maybe it's because people didn't understand me and they were immature themselves. A lot of times I would think it was just kids being immature. It's still sad to be in a situation like that. So I'll work on the lighting. Here's a shadow of myself in the background. Like Plato or something. Plato's cave, man in the shadow, in the cave. Those psychology students will understand what I mean, hopefully. And dating. So as you can imagine, that was my dating experience. There was none. There was Kathy Kaprovsky first. I remember having a crush on Punky somewhere by middle school. I remember having like a crush on her somewhat, I think because of, I think she was nice and she was also popular, and I didn't see how she could maintain that, but she seemed to. And I guess I was a Shannon. Shannon sticks in my mind too. I guess I'm attracted to uh, flirtatious girls and then women that show attention and show, well, I'm a guy, so a woman that shows attention towards me, like talks to me and shows me attention, is automatically somewhat attractive at the very least. Um, but I didn't think like, even I mentioned before Kathy Kaprovsky and Kathy Catholos and then Kathy Dan. I never went out with them. I had some impression, like they asked me out, but I just didn't do. I didn't know what it entailed. I didn't know how to react really. I was kind of flat. I was flattered, and I said yes, and nothing happened. And I felt no girl would be attracted to me. I had a good sense of self-esteem. I had an excellent self-image, and I was proud of myself, and I had my strengths. It's like I had no negative thought about myself whatsoever. I just figured that after so many years of them not accepting me in, that no girl would accept me in or be attracted to me. It's kind of sad now, especially in retrospect. I still like some answer that, what did they really think about me? So in college, I had the Punky experience, and then in college, I'd been already online on dating websites like Plenty of Fish and OkCupid and whatever other site there was. And aside from looking at the photo, I would go through, and at that point, I wanted to fill the void, and I was getting older, and I wanted to date, and I wanted to start dating. I wanted to have a relationship, and call this linear, but I thought the purpose of dating was to develop a relationship and look for, like browse around to find somebody to be girlfriend, and if things became serious, to marry. That's exactly how I saw it. It's like very linear. Some aspects of me are very linear, especially at that age. Especially at that age, I was motivated to find somebody, looking forward, thinking about marriage. And of course, also I'd grown up on television sitcoms, and mostly sitcom. I went to the movies, and it was romantic comedy, so they weren't married yet. But the family sitcoms were big, Married with Children, and not only that, but Silver Spoons, very, very young age, Different Strokes, Silver Spoons. What was that one with Bosom Buddies? Wow, that's a total departure. Very funny comedy. Probably starred a very young Tom Hanks. Great comedy, lasted 2 seasons. It had been on DVD. If you can find it, try it out. Maybe it's on YouTube somewhere, clips of it. I'm trying to think. There's Charles in Charge. So growing up, my experience was Charles in Charge, Facts of Life, Different Strokes, Silver Spoons, Alice, whatever. So the concept of you have a marriage, you have dating, and so forth, that was ingrained. That was normal life. It was normalized. It was what I saw as normal life. So I would go through so I wanted to find somebody Jewish because I didn't want to marry a non-Jew. Notice the way I phrased that. I did not want to marry a non-Jew, so therefore I was going on dating websites looking for Jewish women. That's my thinking. I mean, not that it's unhealthy thinking. I mean, no, but notice that line of thinking. I was already thinking of like I didn't want to. I did not want to get into a relationship and just waste time, waste the other girl's time, and I guess waste my time, but waste the other woman's time because um, I feel like I'm pretending. I wanted to go in with the potential, not the probability, but the potential that uh, this relationship, dating relationship, could lead to becoming significant. And I didn't want to break away. And this is my thinking at age 18, 19, so forth. So already then I was pretty mature. And yet, go figure. No, I never, I'm still questioning that asking out. I don't know whether those girls I mentioned before were serious at all. Um, Aside from that, I've never been asked out. I've, it's like women have not shown an interest in me at all. Um, and that gets into basically the heart of this topic. Basically, it's bullying and dating, lack thereof. Um, so, so I went into these dating sites, um, and I would look through, and like these are my instincts. I would look at the pro. I would look at. Usually, they would have a photo, and if I'm lucky, they would have something to say. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I forgot about this. Man, oh man, oh wow, gee willikers. I worked on my profile, like my text of my profile. Like I would mention my interests, and I would really cater and fine tune and edit and reword. And after so much time of not having any response, I'd look through and see how I can retune it. How can I change this word? How can I rephrase this? How can I rearrange these words and so forth? Something to get more attention. I mean, get some kind of response from somebody. And I don't think I've ever, in all that time, all those different websites, I don't know if I ever got somebody responding to me out of, cold response, like out of the blue, responding to my profile. I would admittedly, okay, I would look at the photo. It was like two sides. I would look at the photo. Is there some physical, am I attracted somewhat physically? Like, is there some physical attraction? Yeah, she looks attractive. What does she say about herself? And it's like she would say, I like going out to move. No, that was good. That was better than I got. It was like, I like walks and hit me up if you want to chat or something. I had nothing to work with. And I was going in wanting to become more conversational. In my head, I had to come up with it's like guys had to work so hard. Girls can just show a pretty face and from what I've heard, they get lots of responses. Anyway, I respected the woman, whatever woman I was looking at, the profile I was looking at, I respected her to try and think of something to comment on in the profile. And sometimes the women would just say, wouldn't even have anything, or they would say, hit me up if you want to chat or something. And that even caused me to look away. Unless the photos were pretty attractive. Okay, I'll try. I'll say something. Like, I even started looking in the picture. I would start looking to see if she was wearing something, or she, like, what are your favorite movie? What do you like to do? Something. And as a matter of fact, I did that sometimes with the thought being that if they saw me asking them a question or showing interest beyond their physical beauty, maybe that would stand out. Maybe that would show them that I respected them as a person. Please comment below if you're a woman, you're a girl, so you're in female gender somewhere, and you say that that's very respectful, or tell me what you think. If a guy if you got that response from a guy. You got, yeah, response. You got that initial call out from a guy. So I was getting nowhere. I mean, I really do mean nowhere. Like no response, no response. And I think this is a common experience from guys. Like 100 different call out, like 100 different emails or contacts outward and nothing back. It's like I know something about script writing, speculative writing, and or just creative writing, or like being a musician or whatever, creative arts. It's a similar experience. You could do all this. You could say, "Hey, look at me," and you're lucky if maybe one person responds back. There's a joke actually that there's a joke. A writer finds out his house is burning down, and his agent was calling him when his house is burning down. I'm telling you the best way from memory. His house is burning down, and his agent was trying to call him when his house is burning down, and his response was, "My agent called." So, and again, by that point, my attraction to Madonna. Maybe I'll write. I'm thinking of writing, doing another video just on why I was attracted to Madonna and what traits I think we shared, and maybe reassessing and assessing and describing like what was going on there. So that was going on, and meanwhile, so I had this internal mental fantasy relationship with Madonna, and no women were contacting me back. Nothing. It was all in my head. So I was pretty active. I was flying solo, you know what I mean, in bed quite a few times, and in my head, and in my imagination, in my fantasy. And being a writer, being a screenwriter helps. But it would have been nice to have an actual experience and build a relationship, build a relationship with somebody, because now my birthday will be November 14th, and I'll be 47, and it's not for lack of trying, but haven't had any. And the responses I did get in these, first of all, the matches I would get on these profiles, in these dating sites, would be from like Bronx, North Islip or whatever, West Bronx, Long Island, Manhattan Beach, whatever. And those are the nearest. I mean, like, I widened my range. Like, in the thing it would say, what are you looking for, man or woman? Woman, age range, 18 to 25, and so forth. And I would start widening, especially as I got older. I kept the 18, but I started widening. Okay, I'm 22. I better add 25. Okay, 27, 18 to 27. I'm like 25. Okay, 26. Okay, I started 18 stayed the same, I guess, and then that started moving forward because I'm like 27. I don't want to date an 18-year-old. It wouldn't seem right to date an 18-year-old. So anyway, nobody replied, or sometimes they would reply, like once or twice they would reply, and that would be a fluke. Oh, it's almost like they were saying, "Where in New York City do you live?" "Oh, you're in Central New York." "Oh, I'm not interested in, yeah, it's too far a distance for me." That was lucky. That was when I was getting lucky. Those are the one or two lucky breaks I had where somebody responded back. So, and yeah, it's weird because, like, as I mentioned before, like, there were times when girls in my class showed some admiration or respect for me. Like, there was one, I think she would understand. Her name was Shayna. Sometime during college, would have been around Thanksgiving. would have been about the time just before the Princess Diana died in a car crash. I remember I was trying to fill the void left by Punky, and so I guess I don't remember how it started, but something like I called up or something, or I connected. Hey, and can I visit? And came over. I hope I wasn't intruding. I hope I wasn't out of line. I mean, she seemed happy to meet me again. I mean, this has been a few years since high school graduation. So I remember I'd written something, and we're sitting down, and she had been home again on Thanksgiving break, and I remember her being near her computer. We had the same computer, I think, a Macintosh Classic, which is interesting. I remember her reading it. It wasn't towards her. It was, although she's attractive, it wasn't about her. It was just something about one of my interests. And she asked me, "What do you think about God?" Or "What do you think of God?" And I explained something. It's like she was caught, and she admired my intellect and my imagination, and my awareness and my insight. And I felt very flattered by that. And I tried to I kept in touch with her at some point. Like, I remember it being November or something. She was at her college, and I was at SU, and at some point she said, look, essentially she said, I'm not interested in Star Trek, and I'm not interested in these things. We can't hold on. This friendship we can't hold on to a friendship like that. Or we can't, I can't have you, like, I have my own time. I don't have time for this, basically. Okay. So that's been the story of my life, somewhat. I know I don't mean it to say, I don't mean to make it sound, oh, pity me, but I mean, instinctively, I guess that's the phrase that came out. It's happened so many times in my life. And yet in temple, synagogue, like, other women would appreciate and admire my insight and awareness and my thoughts and creativity, and they'd want to chat, and they enjoy chatting with me. And yet I haven't found a woman. I think I was born in the wrong area. Sometime I want to do a video about my mom and what I personally unprofessionally diagnosed as schizophrenia, which affected my upbringing, my life, and probably closed doors on a lot of opportunities. Maybe it protected me in a lot of ways, but it closed doors a lot. And if I were living in Los Angeles, if I were even living in New York, for better or for worse, I would have had a whole different experience. I was geared toward, it's sort of like I have the genes for it. I grew up with the instincts for writing and creativity and getting into entertainment, and just, my mom we were in Boston, and then around age 5 or 6, something like that, we moved away. Sometime in a video, either that one about my mom, perhaps the one where I delve into my mom, and the schizophrenia in my mom and my early life. I like to explore my earliest memories, because I can't remember anything really before age 7, maybe 6. Some memories, slight memories. My therapist said something like it could have been blocking out, like, trauma or something. That's entirely possible. I think of, like, my one of my best friends, my close friends, claims to remember things that he can remember as a 5-year-old, 4-year-old, and I have doubts about that. He tends to confabulate, or I've known him to confabulate, so I don't know what's going on, but I'm guessing it's normal, but it's bothersome, because I'd like to have those memories in order to fill in gaps and understand what was going on with my mom and dad, and what put me in this situation, what put me in this spot, this state of being right now. So, again, I'm Jewish. I'm interested in film as a career. I was interested in television as a career in elementary school. I was good at writing. I was good. I was very smart. So you'd think in New York City, if I were in a good school in New York City, I'd be amongst smart people and intellectually competitive, smart people, and I would have had more opportunities, and I would have been more aware of things going on. I would have been more in the center of everything. It's like Luke Skywalker mentions in Star Wars Chapter 4, Episode 4, A New Hope. He says, well, if where are we? And he says, we're on the planet, they were on the planet the scene is set on the planet that he is growing up on as a farm boy. And he says, well, if you can imagine the center of the universe, we're on the planet, we're near the star it's furthest from. And then there's also a moment when he gazes out. He's just had dinner or breakfast. He's just eaten with his aunt and uncle, and he gets up, and his uncle says, "Well, where are you going?" And he says, "Looks like I'm going nowhere." And he walks out, and then his aunt says, he can't. He doesn't want to. He can't stay here. Whatever. A lot of his friends have already gone. And the next scene is that famous scene where and a lot of people, when they watch this movie, I enjoy watching reaction videos of Star Wars, especially the original trilogy of Star Wars. They don't really comment on it. They remark on how beautiful the music is, and they remark how beautiful the scene looks, but they don't comment on what he's feeling. And it's him walking out, and he just stands there looking up at the two glowing discs. I don't know if they're moons or stars, but I can imagine. I know exactly what he's feeling. I can guess exactly what he's feeling. He's trapped. He wants to be out there, and he can't. He's stuck on this farm. So that's how I felt for a lot of my life. I don't know if it'll ever change. But anyway, I'm Jewish, so imagine the reputation New York has. A huge Jewish population, very smart people, excellent schools, smart schools, top achievers in New York. And here I'm in the suburbs of a sleepy city in central New York, in the middle of the state, largely Republican area. I'm Democrat. I guess I should reveal that. I'm exposing everything else. And I would think I would have been married by now. I would have had a career. Presumably, I'd like to think I would have had a young career in the film industry or TV industry somewhere right out of college. I would have interned during college. That's another thing. I was at Syracuse University part-time, and I wanted to have an internship. I wanted to have an internship. I did have one internship in politics, and I had like a political office somewhere, a local, well, I won't say where, but anyway, politics. And I did another internship at the college radio station. But so one cousin I have, that's another thing. So later on, I started looking into my relatives. I guess, yeah, college, maybe during college or just after college. That's what you may remember in an earlier video. My mom and I would talk, and she would share anecdotes about family history, extended family history, like, your uncle, meaning her brother, and your grandfather, meaning her father, and so forth, stuff like that, and shared interests. I looked into I don't know if LinkedIn, well, the equivalent of LinkedIn. I did online research as much as I could, or I just remembered what she said. And my cousin's daughter had a stint at a film studio, and she had something else in terms of film, entertainment, something, visual, public relations, something. And it's like it's sort of comment below if you think the same thing, if you suspect the same thing, that the interests we have can often be carried in the genes, like family members or fathers or ancestors can share similar traits. So that's my cousin's daughter. Her brother is very interested in politics, and I'm fascinated. I had been fascinated by politics. It's become so disgusting that, and of course I graduated college and reality hit, so I couldn't do anything despite having 2 thick notebooks of plans. I had an inaugural address. In fact, I planned to do another video. Nothing else would come of it, so I might as well do a video about it. But what I would have done as president, if I had the chance, I wrote an inaugural speech, and I figured out a budget, and I figured out an agenda, and actually researched this stuff very carefully. My campaign, I'll give you a little preview. My campaign song I wanted it to be "Everybody Wants to Rule the World," but people would probably think me a braggart for doing that. But my campaign song would have been Carly Simon's song that they played in Working Girl, which is "Let the River Run," for a lot of reasons. It's nice that in the song Jerusalem is mentioned, and I'm Jewish, and I like those ties, that those happy accidents that come in. And I think highly of my cousin too, although professionally, I guess he found one way in terms of working a professional life, and I would not have gone into that. Fate didn't have me go into that life. But on another level, if you take that as the abstract, if you take that as just him, if that's the course that life took for him, outside of that, I suspect that he has a good aptitude. It comes down to aptitude. He has a good aptitude for understanding what numbers mean. And I think I have that too. And assessing and imagining, piecing things together. One of my strengths, whenever I would go up for a job interview, and I'd have to play pretend and fake that I really wanted this job, basically, all right, I won't even say just about. I'll just say every job I've gone through, aside from CNN, which is almost out of college. So essentially my one lucky break that didn't work out for me, unfortunately. It's very sad. I wish I could go back. I lasted a month, but anyway. Aside from that, all these jobs, I had to play pretend, and I had to fake my way through the interview, and I had to play up and pretend, play up my office skills and my organizational skills, and mention my ability to piece together different aspects and see a whole. Like, I really enjoy, like, when I was growing up watching TV, especially Star Trek. Oh, I love that. And other Star Trek fans do the same thing. I know, because I've read articles that they've written. They try to understand the whole Star Trek universe, and you sort of have to, or you don't have to, but if you've watched it for any length of time, it will just start happening. You pick up on, these are the Vulcans, this is the Enterprise, this is the crew, these are the jobs. The universe starts being explained in your mind. But I enjoy doing that just for TV shows in general. Even for Married with Children, I wanted to know, like, a sense of what life things, like Al Bundy would mention his paycheck and tax something or other in an episode. And I would ask my mom, like, what does this mean? What does that mean? So forth. I want to understand the universe. That helps, I think, conceptually. Maybe that works into, like, George Lucas created Star Wars, and he worked conceptually. He had this whole universe in his mind. And sometimes I think it's not bragging. just objectively speaking, assessing, I think I share that with George Lucas. I think I also share like his. I guess it's true of a lot of established, successful artists. They use what I refer to as motif references. They will put in references mimicking other works. Like you could see that in Star Wars. I want to do a video on how Star Wars is underappreciated. As famous and as well known as it is, I think it's terribly underappreciated. Especially now as generations go by, people don't even watch Star Wars anymore. But he would put in references, and Madonna would put in references in her video that people would just go right over people's heads, and it's sad. And I respect George. I highly respect George Lucas for expressing and kind of like being an advocate for this happening, this phenomenon where it's becoming more and more difficult to communicate when people don't have that cultural history, literacy. They don't even know the films that you're referencing. Like if he puts, like, okay, an easy example, Episode 1 of Star Wars, The Phantom Menace. You see the pod race go around and around and around. And you see this big like Coliseum, and it's like he's hitting you over the head. Ben-Hur, Roman Coliseum, Ben-Hur, and people are so illiterate, I guess, that they're missing part of the whole movie. It's like you missed, well, you're missing part of the whole movie if you don't even catch that. That's easy. That's kindergarten stuff. But there was another writer. I haven't read his fictional work. Don't call him a sci-fi writer, but his name is Harlan Ellison. He's died, and there was a documentary you may still be able to find on DVD. Where he wrote an episode of Star Trek and won a Hugo Award. And if he were alive today and he heard this, he'd be very quick to mention what awards he's won. Very proud. And it's like he has to defend himself and defend his credentials. He's like a walking resume, defending, standing up for himself, because I would imagine he would say nobody else would stand up for him. He has to stand up for himself. On the short side. So I guess that it helps if you have to stand up and make your voice heard if you're on the short side. But I enjoyed his articles. He had what's called Harlan Ellison's Watching. Harlan Ellison '(S) Watching, and these essays, these film reviews. Were later published as a book, and then quite a while later he came out with like an addendum book, like a sequel book that included the rest of the essays. And although I didn't watch, I didn't read any of his fictional work, I greatly enjoyed his commentary, his articles, because he could start off talking about, for example, the movie Splash. I like mermaids. He like, for example, Splash. And he could start off, summarizing, okay, I saw the movie Splash, blah, 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 and he would talk about how people don't understand myth. And then for the rest of the article, he would talk about how people don't understand myth and how it was misunderstood. He was analyzing sociology. He was analyzing the human condition just in that one article, which was simply a movie review of. It was purporting to be, or under the auspices, I should say, under the auspices of a movie review of the movie Splash. It's interesting. So I would go back, and I had this huge library of books, and I enjoyed reading quite a bit. Gives you a sample of what the adult stuff I was reading. I got that when I was halfway through high school. That shows you some level of the material I was reading. So, he was very enjoyable on TV too when he was being interviewed. He has this bombastic attitude. He would kind of, like, he was serious, but he would blurt out some blunt comment on society or blunt comment on somebody else in the industry, just with no fear of repercussion. It was so funny. And it was also a way of telling it like it was, I guess. I'm guessing to put words in a dead man's mouth. I suppose he would say, if he didn't, somebody had to say it, and nobody else was brave enough to actually say it, and it had to be said. So where was I? So anyway, so I think so. Oh, right. So yeah. So back to this concept of this ability to see the whole context, the whole picture, and I think my cousin has that same aptitude, and hopefully we've talked a few times. I've talked with him a couple of times, maybe 3 short times on the phone at something, and I've talked with his son a bit, usually texting back and forth, and I hope to build a relationship like a friendship because we both share an interest in politics, and between you and me, I hope that that'll reinvigorate my interest in politics, because I think an interest in politics and civics in general is healthy. It's just this negative climate we're in now. If I were I to go, grammatically correct, it's more correct to say, were I to go into politics, I don't think I could accomplish what I would want to be able to do. It's like President Johnson. He wanted, from what I've read, what I understand, he wanted to go into the war on poverty, and he wanted to cure domestic problems, but Vietnam was costing so much. To give you historical context, he was vice president under Kennedy, and I'm hoping we all remember. I'm hoping you all know what happened to JFK. He didn't survive his first term. Literally didn't survive his first term. So Johnson came in and filled out the term, and he won. He beat out his opponent in the '64 election. From what I've read, if I recall correctly, it was a landslide. And then he could have run for a second term, but he backed off. And he, as I understand it, from it's been said from what I've read, he just couldn't. He wanted to do domestic issues, and Vietnam just was a heavy cost. And it was a heavy cost on all of us as a country. There's an interesting song. As a sidetrack, as if I haven't sidetracked enough, there's a TV show called China Beach, which takes place, it's a drama with, I guess, comedic overtones. I hadn't really watched it. It'd be interesting, actually, to watch. I think it aired in the 80s. So it's about 20 years after what it's commenting on, just like The Wonder Years was airing at that time, and it took place in 69, 70, 71, and so forth. Interestingly, each season of The Wonder Years, the kid, Kevin Arnold, his age was the same age, or no, not his age, his grade. We were in the same grade each season of The Wonder Years. So that's interesting. Anyway, China Beach, the opening song, offhand I don't remember what the song was, but it's in the mirror of my mind, time after time. I hope I don't get copy stricken, but anyway, in the mirror of my mind, time after time, I see a picture of you and me, the way it used to be. I don't remember the rest of it, but I guess it's a love song, but they're showing images taking place during Vietnam. And I saw it as not a love song. I saw it as a country singing about itself during the Vietnam War. Looking in the mirror of my mind, time after time, I see a picture of you and me the way it used to be. And I don't remember the rest of the words, but go ahead and listen to that. I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. Several times over, it's on YouTube somewhere. Just the theme song itself. The way it used to be, and the impression of something coming in and screwing it up, and nostalgia for the past, and how happy it used to be. Comment below again. So I'm giving you loads of fodder for comments. Please comment. Tell me if you thought the same thing, or if you tended to think that way too. Offhand, there's talking about presidents and politics. For some presidents, especially the 20th century, of the 20th century, I was fascinated by them from about Hoover and FDR onward. Some people say, "Huh? Who's that?" No, read history. Go to do what I did. Go to your encyclopedia set. Those of you who, yes, there used to be books, physical books actually published called encyclopedias. And that's what I did. In the ancient times, back in 1992 and 93, I went through and I read all the different presidents. I learned them in order, and not just what they did in office, but I was intrigued by what motivated them, and I wanted to get an assessment of each of them in terms of motivations. Like, I have a good assessment, like I think a pretty accurate assessment of Eisenhower as a person, FDR as a person, Nixon as a person, Truman, Kennedy, Roosevelt, so forth. So anyway, I tended to come up with songs that are associated with presidents, and I don't mean, this is not mockery, I'm not making fun of him, and it was purely coincidental, but for FDR, who had been in a wheelchair, I thought of the song by Gloria Estefan, Get On Your Feet. Go ahead and listen to that song, because the lyrics in the song seem to describe the sentiment. I can't vouch for him personally, but I would think he was, I'm guessing it matched his sentiment personally, but I know the country, at least a very large sentiment of the country, of course biased from what my mom said, who lived during the Depression. She was born in 1933, early 1933, so she would have been, her early years would have been right in the heat of the Depression, the Great Depression. Go ahead and listen to the lyrics of that song, Get On Your Feet. It's talking, it's talking about, I know it's been rough on us, but we've got to come together and solve this together. And so I think the lyrics really stand. And it just happens to be called Get On Your Feet, and it just happens to be linkable, matchable to FDR, who was in a wheelchair. So, and then for Carter, I think the song fits Lincoln better than Carter. Or maybe it was President Bush. I think it was President Bush. I don't remember if I had a song for Carter or not. But there's a song by Duran Duran. I want to go to an ordinary world. There's an ordinary world I have yet to find. I've got to make my way to an ordinary world. I really think that fits Abraham Lincoln more than anybody else, any other president. So anyway, maybe I'll. There are other songs I came up with, but those really stuck in my mind. And then I came up with songs that match time periods too. Incidentally, the song that was in the movie playing at the time, what was that motorcycle movie? Easy Rider. There's a song that plays at the beginning over the credits of Easy Rider. Easy Rider came out in like '69, which is the same year as The Moonshot. And if you listen to offhand, I don't remember get on the runway, head out on the highway, looking for adventure in whatever comes our way. Listen to the lyrics. Don't think about motorcycles. Think about the moonshot. And I think it matches very well to the moonshot. Just maybe an accidental, happy accident thing. So I should wrap this up. This is about an hour and 15. Well, it's not as far as I thought it was. Those of you who have longer attention spans, for me, this is nothing. This is, to me, a long video, just a long, elaborate video. So my dating life, back to my dating life. At this point, psychologically assessing myself, I don't know if I'll ever find somebody, a significant other. I could go into detail. There's no point really, but I don't. It's that conundrum. It's that mystery about my life. I don't know what I did. I don't know. I tend to think fate just prevented me from having a relationship with a Jewish woman. So what should I do? A former therapist suggested maybe widening myself when I'm looking for someone. Maybe Judaism, looking for someone Jewish, isn't as important now. Why did I stick so steadfastly to the person being Jewish? Well, I didn't want to screw up her life. I didn't want to make her have to change her life. Again, I'm very respectful towards people in general, towards women, especially. I didn't want, and Judaism is very non-proselytizing. In fact, if you want to convert to Judaism, the common tradition, so to speak, is you go to a rabbi, and the rabbi will reject you twice, and it's that magic number 3. If you come back a third time, it shows that you're really determined to convert to Judaism, and I think that's very healthy. Number one, it ensures sort of that those who convert to Judaism really, really do seriously want to convert to Judaism. Number two, it makes, and along as a corollary to that, you want to convert for the right reason. I didn't want to marry somebody who wasn't Jewish who might convert to, well, at this point maybe I'm desperate enough, but I didn't want to marry somebody, and I didn't want her to feel compelled to convert to Judaism just for me. And that goes right along with this. Non-proselytizing. Where was I? Number one. Number two. Well, I guess there is no number two. It ensures that people who do convert really, really do want to convert for personal reasons. In some sense, there's a phrase that they always felt, kind of like that transgender movement. It's like they've always felt that they were Jewish, and they just want to formally convert. And then there's another reason. I guess I like to say I'm still fertile. I like to think of myself as still fertile, but back when I was younger, when there's the prospect of having a family or having a child, according to Judaism, Jewish culture and tradition, even the Orthodox would consider a Jewish woman, okay, I don't want to say even. All right, in a non-Orthodox Jew would consider an interfaith family. If one of the parents is Jewish, then the child can be brought up as Jewish. If the mother is Jewish, even in an Orthodox movement, an Orthodox person would consider, if the mother is Jewish, the child is Jewish. May not be observant, may convert to somebody else, but there's more of a heavy perception that the child would be Jewish. It's okay. It's easier. I'll just put it this way, that it's easier. If the mother is Jewish, that's a signifier. This child is Jewish. And plus, I factored in, although it's kind of one of the weaker factors, I figured in. Yeah, I'm very thoughtful about my actions and the reason, the rationale behind my thinking process and behavior. My mom married an Irish Catholic, and I didn't want to go through the same thing. Not that he had a lot of impact in my life, but I'll go into that. He would visit sometimes, but I know that the very fact that he didn't grow up with me, that I didn't live with both parents growing up, just that very fact, I wanted to make sure that I'm Jewish and that my wife was Jewish. And we had a child who's Jewish, and there would be a bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah. And culturally, the two of us or the three of us or whatever as a family, we'd be able to go to Shabbat nights, we'd go to synagogue, we would have a family life. There wouldn't be any question about, well, she practices another religion, or she goes to church on Sundays and I have to find something else to do or something. Immediately there's that separation. I didn't want there to be a separation. Judaism, I don't know about Christianity or different sects of Christianity, but Judaism is very family-oriented, family-centered. It's kind of like Thanksgiving, and it's very family-centered. And in fact, there's a holiday that's like Thanksgiving somewhat crudely. It's like Thanksgiving, Passover, where the whole family sits down around a table and the whole family participates. I'd be missing out on that. I'm living in a non-Jewish world, non-Jewish culture. I grew up in a non-Jewish school. I'm in a non-Jewish community, and I'm in a non-Jewish world, and I have to accommodate and translate and so forth. And I have my Jewish beliefs and my Jewish interpretation of which I think was the original, well, closer to the traditional. You have the Bible, and then there's the translation that the Christians use, but I call it the Jewish Bible, Moses and creation myth and so forth. And but I have to play the part. I have to accommodate and acclimate, and I have to play an outside role in a largely Christian world. So, and I grew up with my mom who's Jewish, so I wanted my wife to be Jewish. It's kind of like that line, speaking of the Bible, it's kind of like that line at the beginning where it says, it's about the Adam, and separated, Eve was separated off from the Adam, and it says, I think, or maybe it's Ish and Eve. It's either the first creation story or the second creation story, but it says that's why a man leaves his mother and cleaves to his wife. So anyway, I think I've reached the end of what I wanted to say. Hopefully I won't think of something in the middle of the night. Otherwise there'll be a part 2 of this. So I'll say until next time, thanks. Bye.